Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we discussed a little about Flexbox, and with that, I basically finished everything that I wanted to teach you in Bootstrap. However, I still think that the practice that you have got until now is just one exercise, and that to an image grid, which is kind of a pretty standard exercise when teaching Bootstrap. So that is not enough, and hence this is going to be another code along, and this is going to be a pretty extensive code along, and by the end of this you will be comfortable with Bootstrap, the grid system, and one or two, we're going to use Flexbox in one or two places here, right? But before we start, um, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but now we're going to start with the code sharing, right? So it is possible that the codes might get a little complex from now on, like in this code along too. There are a lot of places where you could make a mistake, right? And it is not always very helpful to rewatch the video, or it can become irritating at sometimes. So it's best if you have access to all the code that we are making during the videos. So I'm gonna put the link of this in the description from now on. And this, if you're not aware, is GitHub, and GitHub is the most popular code sharing site of the whole world, of the whole development world right now, and it will be for a long time. And this is not just for code sharing, it has loads of applications, but that we will get into by the end of the course, right? For now, this is just some code sharing, and I've put everything inside folders. You can go into the folder, you can select the file you want to see, and it will show up like this. Then you can take it into VS Code or whatever you want, and these are all the codes until uh, recent, like grid system. So yeah, you could do this, and whenever you're stuck, just refer to this once, and this will help you, of course, right? So that's it, and this is what we're gonna make now. So this is actually something that looks pretty good, and if you're making something, a professional website, but with a quite simple theme, something like this could always show up, right? And this is what we're gonna make. Then now this looks simple at first, and this might not look pretty difficult, but what's difficult is that this is extremely responsive, right? There are a lot of things changing at a lot of breakpoints. Alright, so it is extremely responsive, right? So let's see what I mean. Like, this is fine, this is going fine, 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 fine. Now I want you to notice that this is first here and this is second, right? But as soon as I hit this breakpoint, and by first second I mean that this is coming before and this is after. So by intuition you can tell that this must have been coded above this. But here we see this moves below this. So how is that happening? That is through a flex utility again, which is order. We'll see that. And what the most responsive thing probably is this author thing right here. So what I'm basically aiming with this is Penation, is kind of a short for Penation. I made something up myself. This is not an actual website, of course. And right now this is stacked above each other, right? This gets small, 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 that's fine. And here we see they get side by side. However, this is taking up a small amount of the space and this is taking up the major amount of the space. As it gets smaller and smaller, they both get equal amounts of space, and that is what we have for the rest of the screen sizes, right? And due to this, this looks actually really, really good on all page sizes, right? So handling the responsiveness is probably the most tricky part of this whole code along. And in fact, I've taken care of so many things that during the code along, I might forget myself what I'm forgetting. Like, I might forget some factor, because it is always easy to code by yourself, but it is not always easy to code the same thing exact again, or code what someone else has written. So let's just start. Enough of the talking. So this until now we had put the content first and then we had styled that in most of the cases. But now I'm going to start with the styling and we're going to style the elements as we move along, right? So the first thing we need is the starter template, and I'll save the file as grid. Let's call this Penation. Put along.html. And of course, we are going to need a CSS file too. So I'll save this as Penation CSS. Sorry, Penation code along.css. Alright. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Bootstrap, documentation, and I'm going to take the starter template right here. Alright, so obviously we don't have anything right now. We have the hello world. Not quite helpful though. So I'll change this to grid, or let's make this a professional thing. We'll change this to Penation, and we do not need this h1, right? So this is what we have, which is actually nothing. So the first thing is the navbar, always, right? Now what we have always done is we've gone to the docs, we've copied this and we've pasted this down here. But here you can see I have no links at all. The only thing I have is this, name of the brand. So there's no use in copying everything and then deleting everything. In such a case, we can actually, write the classes by ourselves. So there's a small correction here. I'm using the navbar element here to make the code. However, the real element to be used is the nav element. Now the thing is that all the styling that Bootstrap does is due to classes, and hence that will not affect our overall look, but you should ideally use nav instead of navbar because they are not a lot. The content is a lot, and that is why the navbar is so long. But here you can just have navbar dot navbar dot navbar dark dot bg dark. So now you might be confused from the beginning about what's the difference between navbar dark and bg dark, right? So what the bg dark class does is it gives us this black background, and what the navbar dark class does is it tells Bootstrap that the background is black, and so you need to have a text color according to that only for all the things. So this white color is due to this navbar dark. Alright, so this is our navbar, and if I refresh, I see I have my navbar again, no content inside. So the first thing always is an A tag, and the A tag for the logo, the class is always navbar brand, right? And the href we can leave as hash. Hash means the current page itself. And in here, first we can write test. Let's see if this is working. Yep, it is, right? And let's change this to Penation. Alright. And we're gonna do everything side by side now. So we're gonna add the icon here too. So let's go to font. Awesome. And first let's take the CDN. This time we're gonna do font awesome 5, right? So you can just Google font awesome 5 CDN and you can go to this cdnjs.com. This is the first link, and go to the CSS, copy this and make a link for this up here. Alright, so now we have font awesome installed. And the next thing we need is to actually get the icon. Font awesome, right? And by default they give me 4.7 here, so I'll go in, I'll do get the latest, and this is font awesome 5. It has a lot of new icons, so we can do something like pen. I don't remember what I searched. I don't think we will get a feather with this. No, we could just simply search feather, right? And alright, so I took this feather alt you can choose this and you can click on the start using this icon. You can copy the HTML and inside the H1 we'll paste this in and add a space. Alright, so now if I refresh, I see I have my navbar as same as what I have there. So navbar is pretty simple, and this is not the button kind of thing we had in the previous code along, because we do not have any links here, so there's no point of a button, right? Alright, so now let's add in this big image and this H1 and all. So this image is actually again from Unsplash, and before we actually get the image, now we can see this is not a container, and what this is actually is a jumbotron, right? Yeah, if you remember, by default the jumbotron was this gray thing, and how I'm getting this is through a background image, right? So first let's get the image. I'll go to Unsplash, and what I searched for was writing, I think. Yeah, this was this. Then I switched to landscape, because you always want landscape for your jumbotron, right? Most of the times, because this is how it will work. Otherwise, you will be just stretching your image a lot. So now I go in here, I select the jumbotron, and now for the background image, you can do background image, and you can just paste this here. This will not work, right? I'll have to write that again. So how you can do this is through the URL. This, so you'll just have to do URL, then a set of parentheses, and then inside of the quotes you paste your URL, right? So if I refresh, I do not see my image, and that is because we have not linked the CSS file yet. So you can go in here. After this, you can put your link tag, and in the href you can give Penation codealong.css. And now if I refresh, I still do not see my image, and that is because I have spelled jumbotron wrongly, of course. So now this is something I have, right? First thing you see is that this is obviously quite small. So what we can do is we can set the height, and I'm going to do something known as the VH. So yeah, is this same? Yeah. So what the VH is actually view height. So this is according to your height, and the full height means 100 VH, and then you can calculate the percentage to find the VH. So 70 VH means 70%, right? And now we see that the image is repeating. So the first thing we need to do is background repeat, no repeat. So these are the properties I was talking about in the background introduction video, right? Background has a lot of properties. So now if I refresh, I see I get only one image and the rest is gray. And now I want this one image to cover the whole jumbotron, right? So I can do background size cover. And if I refresh now, I see I have my jumbotron background set up perfectly. And this is working perfectly fine. So this is for the jumbotron. The next thing that I want to show you is that I want to add, is the content inside of this. So this is obviously an H1 and this is Penation. And if I refresh, I see I get Penation here. However, we want our color to be white. So we'll do that for the H1, and no, this might turn out later. Color white. Alright. So now I have Penation here. However, this is not at the right place, first of all, and it is not of the right size. But before anything else, we do not have our icon. So to get the icon, I'll go to Font Awesome yet again. I should have kept it open. Alright, now in Font Awesome, I think I can search for writing. Or this was what I searched for originally. And I could simply search for a quote. So this is the thing that I'm using. This is quote left. And alright, I can start using, copy this, and I can paste this before my H1 and add a space, right? So now if I refresh, I see I have my thing here. So the next thing that I would want is to make this bigger, and for that I can do font size orem. I don't know what I did in that. I think I remember right. This was 4em. Alright. So the next thing is making this centered. So first thing you could do is you could set a margin auto, which will make it centered horizontally, and then you could do something to actually set the margin for the vertical things, and that would work. Of course, that is not a problem. But if you remember, we do have a really easy way for that, and that is through the flex box. So I can do D flex to make it display flex. Then I can do justify content center. Then I can do align items center. And just to refresh your memory, justify content will center it horizontally, and align items will center it vertically. And now I see I get my exact same Jumbotron and exact same Navbar. If you do not see the portion below this, we have already made what we were aiming for. And there's no special responsiveness to this because this is Jumbotron and that is by default responsive, so no problem in that, right? Okay, so now we can start adding our main thing. So the first thing is, of course, that this is a grid because we have two elements and they are split. So for a div you need to have a container, but if you see this is not inside of a container because this is taking up almost the whole space. This is due to some other property and not the container. So if you remember, we can use the container fluid. Now we can make a row. Inside this we can make a column, and this is column 3, I can tell you for now. So we can make a column 3, and this will change the classes. We'll add a couple of classes later, but for now we can do column 3, and I'm just gonna leave this as author for now. We'll add the proper, this good looking thing in the next video. And in this now, the next is column 8. So I haven't actually covered my whole 12 spaces, and the reason behind that is I'm going to use flexbox in this, which does not care how much spaces you take, because we're going to do something to make this really well spaced, and the one block remaining will get evenly distributed. We'll see what I'm talking about in the next one. And then I can do content, right? So if I refresh, I see I have both my things here, and the only thing I need to do is put proper things instead of these, and then this will start looking like what we have here, right? So we'll continue in the next video because otherwise this video will get too long. So I'll see you in just a moment.